What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're looking at part 4 of our intro to EVE Online, and we're just going to go through some of what some of the early tutorial has going for us right now. You probably have something similar on your screen as what we're seeing here, which is the operations info panel on the left there, where Aura is trying to get you to open your character sheet, redeem items, open the inventory, view skills, and get a skill training. So we talked about this last time a little bit, but just as a quick refresher, clicking on your character sheet is as easy as clicking up in the left corner there. Inventory is 2 down, and it looks like a little box with no top on it. And redeeming items can be done up here under the little E, which has pretty much everything in it. In case you don't know or don't want to remember like where you need to click, you can always just click on the EVE E in the corner, have the menu pop out, and go and find what you want. So under inventory is redeemable items, and training is skill. So now this is the character that I've hopped over to. You can see that as an alpha character, you're only allowed to train up to, or at least have a queue for your skills, up to 24 hours long. And you can see this little Omega icon over on the right here. Once you're Omega, and that involves either buying a Plex in-game, which is an item that you can buy on the market. We can go find it. I just type in Plex, and it comes up. Or I can just search under Pilot Services. And you can buy with in-game money a 1-month subscription, basically, to the game that gives you Omega access. So you can also see, as we're sitting here, that it's very expensive to do so. But it's not an unreasonable amount of money, and you can make that amount probably within, depending on how determined you are and how active you are in the game. As an alpha, you can probably do that within a month to 2 months if you're dedicated and that's your main goal. It may not necessarily be your main goal, as that kind of money can also buy you a lot of other things, which are very useful. And the subscription is only anywhere from like $12 to $15 a month. But anyway, so your training queue is listed here. So let's say I want to train Galente Frigate. I just drop it above or below, and you can move the skills up and down to reorient them, much like you would any other. The skill doesn't fit in that. Okay, what about that? Boom, there we go. All right, so I was training Controlled Bursts 4, and now I'm back to training that again. If I want to train Galente Frigate 4, after that, I would click this and drag it down. Now, as you can see, there are times listed next to each of these skills. And that time, or the time that it's listed there, as I hover over it, you get some information. The time that's listed there is the amount of time it would take to train the next skill, right? So Galente Frigate 3 will take 14 hours, 37 minutes, and change. If I dragged out and dragged. If I dragged this skill back down there to add the 4th level to the skill beneath the 3rd, and add that up as a queue, level 4 itself would take just almost shy of 3.5 days, which is a long time, but not too terribly long. So one other thing that you get, among many, when you pick up an Omega subscription, is it allows your character trains skills at twice the speed. Okay, so right now, I don't know the exact pace, but there's a lot of math that goes into how many skill points you get per minute or whatever. Things that go into it is right here. If you look, as I hover over Galente Frigate, it shows that in total you're looking at 512,000 skill points to go from level 1 to level 5, and that's how many you'll need. And you see how it says, let's show info on this. It'll pull the info screen out, and attributes. So it shows here that the primary attribute for learning Galente Frigate is perception, and the secondary attribute is willpower. These tell you what of your character's attributes, which is under character and attributes here, are most important to learning this skill. And you'll find that there are patterns. Space flight, or let's see, spaceship command skills primarily, all are perception primary, willpower secondary. Other skills like The scanning skills, let's look at survey just because it's a general, are intelligence and memory, right? So if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty details of the game, you will come in here and use one of your remaps to give yourself more points in the skills that you're going to be training over the next set period of time. Now, if you're a brand new account, you will only have one remap every 12 months available to you. So there are programs like Evemon, and that's as it might, it sounds as it's spelled, Evemon. You can look it up and download it. It's an external tool, and it allows you to sort of plan out your queue without any restrictions to use as a guide for yourself. And it'll also allow you to change your attributes and see what effects that has on your training times for your queue, which is really pretty handy. So we won't get too much into this, but long story short, I wanted to give you a quick little intro into the skills, and these are all the different categories that your skills might be, that your skills might fall into. Now, if you go looking for a skill and you don't see it here, and you see it on mine, like Amar Freighter, for example, your pull down here may only show you what skills you have, right? So right now, if I select my skills, it only shows me 4 of 75, right? Now I can change that to skills that I can train right this moment, and it reduces that even further to only showing 2. So like if I wanted to get into Galente destroyers, for example, I would have to get through Galente frigate, and I would have to buy and inject the Galente destroyer skill. So for now, don't worry too much about that. Drag down one of these skills, get it training. Skills that you probably want to focus on initially are most of these engineering skills. You'll want energy grid upgrades, electronics upgrades, capacitor systems operation, CPU management, capacitor management. Most of what's here available to you is worth just dropping in because it's a skill that's handy, and it suits pretty much every race that you might have. So if I go into Gunnery, which is where I'm currently training, if I train up my, let's see, where is it? Small hybrid turret, and I decide that's what I want to do. But tomorrow, I feel like I really want to get into Amar ships. Well, the small hybrid turret skill won't help me at all there, because Amar ships, they can use small hybrid turrets, but they all the ships give benefits to laser guns on Amar ships, and a lot of the ships that are Galente give, as you can see, bonuses to small hybrid turret or hybrid turrets in the Galente faction. So each race has its own preferred type of weapons, and each of their ships, for the most part, have bonuses to that. So just to show you what I'm talking about here, this is the ship tree for Galente. That's the Caldari. Let's go into Galente. All right. And it shows where our skills are currently. It also shows where our limitations are as an alpha character. So this little Omega icon shows where you can't go past. So you can't get into tier 2 ships or tech 2 ships on any of these. And the best you'll be able to do is, let's see, get into racial cruisers. But again, we'll not worry about that. So if I just hover over each of these without clicking on them, it tells you what that ship's bonuses are. So this ship is best used for remote armor reparation, right? And you can see that it gets a lot of bonuses to that. The Tristan, small hybrid turret, and drone hit points and tracking speeds. Now, so drones are something that we should perhaps look into skill-wise as well, as drones can be used in many, if not all, racial ships across the board. Now, again, each race will have ships that are a bit more catered to the use of drones than, say, not. So, like if I go into Minmatar, for example, the Thrasher does not have any bonuses to drones, and if I look at the attributes, it doesn't have a drone bay, it doesn't have any like bandwidth or capacity or the ability even to have drones and use them. So why I brought you over here is that you can sort of see as you hover over different ships that they have different purposes or different bonuses that are given to them, and it should give you some idea as to what the point of that ship is or why it exists, right? So the Atron here has bonuses to small hybrid turret damage, fall off range, which we talked about a little bit. We'll get more into when we get into combat, and then propulsion jamming. So that's an interesting switch. Every faction has an exploration ship that has exploration bonuses. So this is that ship for the Gallente, and you'll know it because it offers core and combat scanner probe strength bonuses, and relic and data analyzer virus strength. So anyway, we won't get too bogged down here, but what you want to do is you want to always make sure that you have skills being trained. Because you can only queue things up for a full 24 hours, that limits things. So let's say I want to get rid of this just to make a point. So if I wanted to, obviously if I have 24 hours worth of queue time to work with, if I take Gunnery, which you can see takes almost 10 days to train Gunnery 5, and I drop it in here, it'll fit because it starts within that first 24-hour period. It doesn't have to finish within that 24-hour period. It just has to start in there. So you can click the X and remove it from there. But that's an important point to know about. So I have some shield skills, and just to show you, I'm gonna fill up my queue here. I'll drop a 2.5 hour, 3.5 hour. We'll add 7 hours and 5, and I think that puts us to at least our 24-hour period. So I'll need to come back in by this time tomorrow and add something, or I can instead do, I don't know, I'll put the shield management one, and notice how it bumps the other one right off the list because it was 24 hours. So that's like a quick little look at skills. Some skills require obviously other skills, like we were talking about the Gallente. We look at Gallente Destroyer. If you hover over it, it'll tell you that the Gallente Frigate 3 skill is required in order to inject the Gallente Destroyer skill. You can buy it and you can inject it, but you can't. I'm sorry, I must have misspoke. So you got to have Gallente Frigate 3 in order to train the first level of destroyers. You can buy it and you can inject it, and that's fine, but to actually train that first level and enable yourself to fly a destroyer, you're going to have to get to Gallente Frigate 3. Now, if we look at Cruiser, just as a point of comparison, that hopefully unsurprisingly tells you that you need Gallente Destroyer 3 in order to train the first level of Gallente Cruiser. So anyway, so get your skills lined up here. I would say start with engineering because most of those skills are useful across the board. You don't necessarily need to understand why or how just yet, but picking one of these will do you well in the future, and it won't hurt. So get something training, and then tune into the next video, and we'll get into kind of what Aura is asking us to do and what we're supposed to do kind of from here on out, because there is no real mission and we're just working through the tutorials. So thanks for tuning in. I had a little bit of a problem with the second and third videos where the audio was out of sync, so I apologize if any of the previous videos are bad. I'm going to try to get better at this as we go along, but yeah, so today's is a quick look and a quick introduction hopefully into skills and what you want to have going, and we'll cut it here and we'll jump into a little bit like sort of the next step of the game and go from there. I'm kind of winging it, so it may seem somewhat aimless, but hopefully this helps you kind of learn as you go, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.